Hello everyone, welcome to PsychAssist. Like if you're liking this. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode of PsychAssist. I've got an amazing episode for you guys. It's the 6 jobs that any psychology student or graduate should be looking at. So let's go. Now the first 2 job roles are probably the best, and they are support worker roles and healthcare assistant roles. Now the reason why I think they're the best roles is because you're seen as the front line, and what I mean by the front line is you spend the most time with the client. Now I might be a bit biased by promoting support worker roles because that's where I started out. It is probably the best experience that I've ever had. I always say to psychology graduates and students that always ask me for advice on what type of jobs they should go for, and I always say support worker, only because I learned more in my 1 year as being a support worker than I did in all of my 3 years of undergraduate. And the reason was all the theory that I was learning at undergraduate level, I was finally putting it into practice. Another reason why I always say about going for healthcare assistant roles or support worker roles is it builds up your engagement skills. And I always say to people, this is about 60% of being a psychologist in the future, having that ability to engage with a client and to get them on board for any treatment that they need to have. My top tip for this is don't just look at NHS jobs for support worker roles and healthcare assistant roles, but look at other job sites. They've all got support worker and healthcare assistant roles that you can go for. Now another tip that I always say to psychology students and especially graduates is to look for these types of roles but in generic populations, so like in a CAM setting or an adult mental health setting, only because it gives you the best chance of getting exposed to so many different client groups, and trust me, that will help you later on in interviews. Job number 3, PWP, Psychological Wellbeing Practitioner. Now, I will put in the description a link of the specifics of what they do. However, here's a brief outline. PWPs usually work in the IAP service, which stands for Improving Access to Psychological Therapies. To become a PWP, you have to 1. Graduate with a psychology degree, 2. Apply for the trainee psychological wellbeing practitioner post, and 3. Complete 1 year of being a trainee psychological wellbeing practitioner. Now the best thing about being a PWP is after about 2 years you can start to think about applying for the high intensity CBT therapist posts. Oh, and did I mention that a CBT therapist is the same banding as a newly qualified clinical psychologist? Job number 4, teaching assistant. Now this type of job is good for those that want to pursue a career in educational psychology. However, this isn't just for those that want to pursue that career path. Think about it. The skills that are needed to survive in a classroom are perfect to develop the skills of psychology graduates. Being a teaching assistant will develop your skills of engaging young people, and I say this all the time, engagement is about 60% of being a psychologist. If this is something that interests you, have a look at your local authority's website or any job site and you'll see that they're advertising for teaching assistant. Job number 5, research assistant. Now I'll let you in on a little secret. About 90% of the research assistants that I know got their job by simply emailing their old lecturer or their old supervisor and asking them point blank, do you have any research projects that I can get involved in? Obviously this started by volunteering, but after a short while of volunteering, this led to paid research assistant experience. So here's my PsychAssist tip. Always keep a positive relationship with your lecturers. You never know, there might be a time where you have to send them an email asking them if they've got any research that you can be a part of. Now again, this might start off as voluntary, but a lot of the time, voluntary experience leads to paid experience. Job number 6, assistant psychologist. Now there's a reason why this job role is last, because it's the most competitive. Now with this type of job role, you will probably get the best quality of experience because you're observing directly what a qualified psychologist does on a daily basis. These job roles are very, very competitive, and what I always say to psychology students and graduates is try and gain experience elsewhere for about 6 months to a year before you try and apply for assistant psychologist roles. I remember for my assistant psychologist post, there was 250 applications for one job role. That is how competitive they can get. However, if you feel like you're ready to apply for these assistant psychologist jobs, check out my other video, the 5 tips on how you can get that assistant psychologist job. And there you have it, the 6 jobs that I always recommend to people if they want to pursue a career in psychology. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of PsychAssist. My social medias will be at the bottom here. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, share it, do whatever the hell you want with it. Thanks for watching PsychAssist. Like if you're liking this, and I'll see you next week. This is what being reflective is all about. Having that ability to reflect on your own practice and see how you've grown as a clinician is absolutely vital. You ask any psychologist in the UK what's the number one thing that you need as a psychology graduate, and that is the ability to be reflective.